Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
We did a fight once in the UK, and they did an evening with me and Bob, right? And they said, Eddie, what's your proudest moment as a promoter? And I was like, I did AJ against Klitschko, Wembley, 90,000, blah, 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 blah. And they went, Bob, what about you? And he went, well, it's between the Thriller in the Manila and the Rumble in the Jungle. And I was like, blimey.
Hey,
I mean, what that guy, I mean, that's it.
What you gonna say about that?
I know.
What you gonna say about that? Well, considering that Bob didn't promote either one of them, and Don King promoted both these events, I'd say Bob's a effing liar. Please tell me he's not going around saying he promoted these events. Please.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
After listening to Simon Jordan's observation, why the Saudis are going so hard to control boxing, let me give my take on it. The Saudis can't buy football. Football is self-sustainable. It's not like boxing. The Saudis have money, but DAZN are not broke. DAZN is run by a billionaire. They still haven't obtained premiership rights in the UK. Anyone looking to get into sports streaming in the UK on a high level and you don't have premiership rights, it will be hard to be a big player. Even without the Saudi influence, DAZN are probably the #1 streaming app for sports without premiership rights. And they've had to endure a lot of losses to get that standing as one of the top streaming apps for sports. To compensate, DAZN have had to hemorrhage a lot of money into other sports to build that subscriber base. Now, I don't know how long the Saudi Arabia Football League has been in existence, but it's been doing football longer than it's been doing boxing. And already, they're top of the tree in boxing. However, the Saudi Arabian Football League is 17th. They are the 17th most popular league beneath the Premiership, Serie A, and La Liga. Yeah, that's how hard it's going to be to dominate football. Golf. Simon said the Saudis have run into trying to make inroads into golf. Self-sustainable. It's got PGA, Masters and all their formats set out. Their advertising, their sponsors, all ducks in a row in these sports. You can't buy them like that. Pro boxing is so fractured on so many levels. It's a combat sport like MMA. But if you look at UFC, and I'm not an expert, but where do you get, this UFC fight can't happen, or somebody can't sell, or they're not the most exciting striker? You don't hear that. It's not going to happen. Boxing, for those with the bag long enough to do so, and have seen the opportunity, yes, it's an easy target. And right now, they're not far off from buying out boxing. They're not far off. Then you had Simon Jordan, who was taking little digs, taking little snipes at Riyadh season, wasn't he? Turkey had that phone call. Invited Simon and Jim White over there. Jim went over there. But now when you hear Simon talking about Riyadh season, the tone has changed somewhat. Media is very important to buy off. You'll get the checkbook out and shut Big Mouth Simon up, because he can cause trouble. WBC, partner up with Turkey Al Sheikh. WBA, partner up with Turkey Al Sheikh. We know Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren were partnering up. Now Top Rank and Golden Boy are partnering up. He's in talks with the PBC right now. He's mentioned on a few occasions now that he wants DAZN to be the main broadcaster of boxing and combat sports. He likes what they're doing. There's a partnership there. Now, either Turkey was a real boxing fan, or someone in the public investment fund told him, pick up these how to do boxing books and study all what you can. Because someone over there twigged that boxing is an easy target. HBO, Showtime, they're gone. You heard Bob Arum saying why Crawford and Spence couldn't happen. Piracy, illegal streams. Okay, well, we can get past that obstacle if it's money. With boxing, we can buy boxing with money. We can't buy a lot of them football leagues with money alone. We can't do that. We can't just walk in to them institutions who have weekly, yearly schedules, who have sponsors queuing up to have their names side by side with their brand. Excuse the analogy to whoever's listening, but boxing is like a dysfunctional woman, a hoe, that's been going through life, getting tossed to this dude, to that dude, to this dude. And now the Saudis are trying to make her a housewife, a respectable housewife, like the Premier League, like the golf infrastructure. But they've got a job to do. They've got a job to do. She needs a lot of cleaning up, but it's a good start.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
Ben Whitaker talking about a potential catchweight fight, maybe at super middle, with Eubank Jr. because they're both on Boxer. He said it would be a sexy fight, more like Beauty and the Beast, with him being Beauty and Chris being the Beast, I'm guessing. Chris has expressed interest in such a fight, but it's at a point now. Every time I read an article that Chris is interested in a potential fight, it's like,
No!
He isn't. I understand the reasons why he hasn't taken the potential offer of the Canelo fight that was potentially in the makings, because your best version of yourself, and if you're going to go in and try and win a world title, if that's what your motivation, if your motivation is to get paid to play some more poker and tell us all about your Las Vegas villa, then you can go in and fight Canelo and lose and pick up.
Also, just on what Simon said there, a lot of fighters probably would just take Canelo on 6 weeks' notice for the money that they shouldn't get. Chris wants to win that fight. He's going into fights to win. He's ambitious. He's not coming for it. Like, I think people think maybe he's so money hungry, it doesn't make sense. No, if he was that money hungry and that desperate for money, he'd take a few million and he'd go and fight Canelo on 6 weeks' notice and not be prepared.
Or
he wants to win that fight.
Double dip in Saudi by taking an easy fight, get his star shining in Saudi, and get paid twice for being in Saudi.
Yeah, but I think that, you know, what Ben's saying there is, you know, when you fight someone like Canelo, a fight of that magnitude, you want to be best prepared for that, especially at Eubank's stage of his career. What is he, 34 years of age? He's in the twilight of his career.
What's he been scratching his ass for 12 months for then?
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is you have to be best. He's only been given 6 weeks' notice. The fight hadn't been done.
He's been doing nothing for 12 months.
What does that matter, though? When you only get 6 weeks' notice, you go,
the choice is you could have had plenty of tune-up fights during that period.
See, the thing is, yeah, Spencer Oliver and Ben Shalom can say what they want, but Simon nailed it. What's he been doing for the last 11 months? He hasn't come out and said he was injured. People are saying he's playing poker with Ryan Garcia or whatever he's doing. And now you want to come back after 11 months to fight Zeremeta on one of the biggest cards this year. So, okay, that one fight he's going to have in what will be over a year by the time he fights on the BETERBIE of BIVOL undercard. Will that prep him for the Canelo fight? And wouldn't Canelo have moved on to somebody else? It's not like Chris is an opponent for Canelo, where if talks break down, it's a fight they'll be looking to revisit, negotiating again down the line. No. David Benavidez is the guy the fans have been saying, well, okay, it didn't happen a couple of years back, it hasn't happened yet, maybe in a couple of months, maybe next year. That's not Chris. This was a once out of the blue opportunity. Chris is not in the rankings for elite fights. It's almost like Ben and Chris think, well, Canelo has to understand that he's fighting on my time. No, you're fighting on his time. You had your opportunity. You sat around and not done anything since the Liam Smith fight. Not done anything at all. In fact, they actually went into negotiation with Canelo, knowing that they was inactive. Then they pulled out of the negotiation saying, well, I can't take the fight because I'm inactive. Well, why did you go into the negotiation inactive knowing that that would be the exact reason why you can't take the fight?
What does that matter, though? When you only get 6 weeks' notice, you go...
And Spencer Oliver is saying, oh, they got 6 weeks' notice. Well, that's not what Eubank or Ben Shalom are saying. They're saying because Chris was inactive. So which one is it? 6 weeks' notice, or he was inactive, or are you going to just throw every flipping thing at the wall, like Jackson Pollock's, and hope you come up with something? No. They pulled out the Canelo fight because they wasn't getting the money they wanted.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
Revisiting the Shakur Stevenson, Joe Cordina, BETERBIE of BIVOL pay-per-view situation in America. You know, there's a few questions, like how well did the Terence Crawford pay-per-view in Los Angeles do in Riyadh season? Has it been as successful as the 5 versus 5, Knockout Chaos, Fury versus Usyk, the Day of Reckoning? If there's no demands for these cards in America, why headline BIVOL and BETERBIE in America? That's not to say I feel that Shakur is going to do any numbers headlining the pay-per-view in America. But maybe it's best just to get the numbers up on ESPN so they can see the headlining act, the original headlining act, BIVOL and BETERBIE for Undisputed. I would imagine there's going to be a large viewership watching that in America. Those already subscribed to ESPN, most of them are going to watch that. And they don't have to sift through fights they don't want to see. Shakur Stevenson versus Joe Cordina and any other Europeans on the card. And even though BETERBIE can't speak a word of English, I would imagine he's pretty popular amongst those subscribed to ESPN. He's been on there for years. They know what they're getting. At the same time, they're not used to paying for his fights, undisputed or not. BIVOL, not a big draw in America. If they had just left it as a DAZN pay-per-view, they wouldn't have paid for BIVOL and BETERBIE. They wouldn't have paid for it like that. Shakur as the co-main event to BETERBIE in other territories like the UK, it's going to do all right. There's enough territories out there for Shakur versus Cordina, BETERBIE versus BIVOL, Fabio versus Fraser. Outside of the US, it will do okay in selected territories. And that's what's important. All this, we got to build you in American time. When the interest is there, you can do that. Shakur has to get in where he fits in right now. And the American time zone is not compatible with the Saudi time zone. It's not an American card. And then September, you got Canelo versus Berlanga. They're charging $90. 1 month after they want you to pay out for Shakur, BETERBIE and BIVOL. I think they've probably played it right. For a lot of them ESPN subscribers, it's a win. Shakur's not that popular in America right now. Some of the American fans are saying we should get Shakur and Cordina for free. No. If you really want to support Shakur, you got to go in your pocket and pay for it. You have an option. Either pay for Shakur if you're supporting Shakur, or use your subscription on ESPN and watch BIVOL and BETERBIE. You have two alternatives.
Boxing. Beats and rhymes. Boxing. Beats and rhymes.
You have to ask yourself why Al Heyman or Errol Spence would allow potential talk of him rematching Crawford go on and on and on and on.
Well, it's on and on and on and on, yo.
Knowing full well after the beating he took for Crawford in the first fight, it wasn't going to happen. And now he's doing the same thing with this 154-pound situation. He's obviously not going to be ready to fight Fundora in October. So the WBO have call time and demand Fundora fight Terence Crawford 30 days to negotiate, or it goes to a purse bid, minimum 200 grand. Some are speculating that Fundora may give up the WBO belt and look for an easy touch to defend the WBC belt that he has also. But, it's a great opportunity. Fundora is unified, WBO, WBC. Bud being the WBA champion and the WBO interim champion, and Tim Tszyu about to fight Baktram for that IBF belt, we could have an undisputed champion within 6-7 months easy. Let's do it. A lot of this is Fundora's fault. He chose to entertain Errol Spence's challenge, maybe expecting a big purse and an easy fight after Crawford softened him up. Initially, there was talk of him forfeiting the belt rather than fight Crawford and just defend the WBC belt against Spence. It'd be good to see an undisputed champion there. That's all I can say. It'll be good.
Boxing. Beats and rhymes. Boxing. Beats and rhymes.
Yeah. You know what was interesting? I spoke to Steve Wood the other day on Fight Night. He also looks after ZEFA Barrett. ZEFA was offered the fight before Joe Cordina and turned it down. Which I thought was interesting. It was like ZEFA was offered the chance to move up in weight and take on Shakur Stevenson. ZEFA turned it down because he wanted a bit more money. This is what Steve Wood said on Fight Night. ZEFA and his team, have they made a mistake on missing out on an opportunity like this?
Yes! Emphatically.
Yes!
I mean, according to Ade, Steve Wood said ZEFA turned it down because he wasn't getting enough money. It wasn't like, well, we think that 135, ZEFA's not ready to go up there and face the likes of Shakur, or it's short notice. It's a bad stylistic match, etc., etc. No, it's over money. When surely you gamble in a situation like this. You beat Shakur Stevenson, Turkey will give you the pen and allow you to write your own check. ZEFA's 31 years of age. He's not a kid no more. And he's turned down an opportunity to mix it with one of the pound-for-pound best in the sport. I tell you what, man, I hope Pat Barrett, ZEFA's uncle, knows what he's doing. I really do. But if you don't believe you can win the fight, then yeah, obviously, it's the right decision. I think they've told themselves more than they've told me that they know what their limits are.
There's levels to this shit.
The way Addy said it, it sounds like Steve Wood wasn't too impressed, because if he's either handling Zelfa's affairs or managing Zelfa, he wouldn't just come out and say, well, he turned it down because the money wasn't enough. That's not what people who manage fighters do. They do more damage control than that. He's putting it out there. Like Ben Shalom for Eubank, Ben will say Chris wasn't ready to fight Canelo. Not that he turned it down because the money wasn't enough. He's doing damage control. So he doesn't sound like he's too pleased. He's putting it out there. And I'm assuming that Eddie Hearn and Matchroom ain't too impressed either, because Zelfa's fought for world titles. He's been a European champion. Yeah? He's an experienced pro. And Eddie's trying to fill them Riyadh season quotas. I don't think they're going to baby Zelfa at this stage here. So I don't know what his future at Matchroom is right now.
Boxing. Beats and rhymes. Boxing. Beats and rhymes.
DJ